What does the United States get right? They do jazz very, very well. Public lands. Between Federal Government Park Service, Forest Service, Bureau of Land Management, Fish and Wildlife lands and various state and local public lands, there are several 100 million acres of opportunity for recreation like hiking, camping, birdwatching, biking, skiing, hunting, fishing, sightseeing, or whatever you like to do to enjoy nature. Gas stations like Quick Trip, where they have clean bathrooms, lighted parking lots, free air for your tires, 10 different coffees on tap, beer, hot dogs, any soft drink or snack you want, the list goes on. In other countries you're not gonna believe this, their gas stations only sell gas. ADA is huge, and nowhere else in the world have I seen accessibility as we see in America. Our motion picture industry. Despite its criticisms, it has a global, cultural effect. Entertainment in general. You guys know how to put on a show. Free public toilets everywhere you go. It's kind of a culture shock to go to a different country to have to pay money to use the restroom. It's a necessity. I would rather people be allowed to use the restroom rather than do their business outside. Accessibility code for buildings. I come from a country where disability is looked upon like a crime or fault. USA does an amazing job making things accessible. I haven't seen all of USA, but majority of the places has amazing system. Aussie here. I think entertainment. Everyone talks shit about the US, but then spend most of their time listening to American music, film, and TV. Edit, so this comment blew up. I'm stoked. My biggest comment ever is showing some international love. Cafes and restaurants open between 2 and 5 p.m. Automatic complimentary water at cafes and restaurants. Free public restrooms. National parks. Handicap accessibility. Most people probably don't realize this, but when you go overseas, particularly to older cities, it can be extremely difficult for people with disabilities to get around. Here, every new building has to meet certain accessibility standards, and many old ones have been retrofitted. I remember hearing a brown British man speak once, and he said something along the lines of, people in the UK are nice, but you never truly feel like you're one of them in America. If you call yourself American, then you're really American. I think we might be the single country on earth where there is no one stereotype of how we look or act, or are we really a melting pot? Do we have a problem with racists? Yes, of course, but they're a minority and overrepresented in the media, and the fact is that current day America is one of the only moments both in history and now where so many different types of people are able to live together in the same community so peacefully and harmoniously. Pop culture. Barbecue. We're the nation that created Shrek. That's all I need to say. I love that in the US if you go back to school at 40 or 50, no one blinks an eye. If you get a degree at 80 or 90, you are a total hero. In many cultures you need to be done with school in your 20s. No one goes to school later in life. Films. Don't get me wrong, the US can put out some bad films, but the ones I've seen are usually American. Space exploration. So proud of my country for that. Being big. Big enough to have a bit of everything and have plenty to explore. NASA. I've always envied your wildlife. I'm from England, and the only large wild animals, other than fish, we have are deer, boar, and foxes. And they're incredibly rare. I've always thought it was so cool one country could have bears, moose, cougars, alligators, panthers, bison/buffalo, etc. Our city road designs suck, but the interstate system is pretty smart. Constant uninterrupted traffic flow for freight and cross-country travel. Scientific research. The US postal system, it's the most far-reaching postal system in the world. We will deliver nearly anything to any mailbox. Do you live in the bottom of the Grand Canyon? Say no more, postal donkeys. We may not have the strongest passport, but it's still a darn good passport to have, especially for traveling. As an American, entertainment hands down. Military logistics. Interstate highway system. Blows my mind that I can get pretty much anywhere I want down there without having to take some crazy roundabout route and have ample places to stop and eat/bathroom/refuel. Also, most people in the USA actually follow the pass on the left, cruise right rule, which is a rarity here in Canada. National parks. Breakfast food. Ice in your glass. Lots of ice in your glass. Enough to make your drink ice cold. It's like the rest of the world has no refrigeration. I may be biased because I'm American, but I am well traveled. I have to say deli. Most peoples around the world have no concept of New York-style Jewish deli, and thus what a sandwich could be. I remember seeing a similar question and saw this comment that stood with me. I went to an elementary school once. All the kids were different colors and different cultural appropriation. And they all get along well and laugh together. It was beautiful, something like that. Burgers. Motherfucking burgers. Even though there are people living here who are hateful, The vast majority of Americans appreciate and celebrate diversity. Compare that to countries that are homogeneous. In general, they can be extremely bigoted. Free speech. I can get arrested for saying certain opinions in my country. I'm surprised no one has mentioned the interstate system. Being able to connect every major city in the United States is quite an achievement that has allowed us to transport goods all across our large country. Also, the way the interstates are correlated to what part or the US they are in was a really good idea, as they are easier to remember for long trips, x. I-10, I-20, I-30. By understanding how the interstates are numbered and having a rough idea of US geography, I can easily drive to many large cities without having to use a map. The bonus of rest areas and signage with gas stations and restaurants at every exit is something that I also feel is highly underrated. No pay toilets. We make top-notch toenail clippers. Music. Argentinian here. I love Argentinian barbecue, but Americans also do it very well. Our national parks. Hiring strangers. We are very trusting in business relationships. In some ways nepotism still rules, but it's much better here than in many countries. Second chances. A failure doesn't dishonor you forever. We use that as experience to do better next time. Showers. They have very good plumbing. The amount of choices at the grocery store. It can be overwhelming, but most other countries don't have nearly the same amount of options for something as simple as potato chips. The drink refills. Multiculturalism. Sports. The US has created some of the world's best athletes in a wide variety of sports. Ranch flavor. Public restrooms. The US has free restrooms in most public parks, transit stations, city/government buildings, etc. Hell, most private businesses let you use the restrooms, if you ask nicely. Europe, on the other hand, have pay toilets out in public. I completely understand why, but I can't imagine digging for money when you really need to drop a dooker. Clean drinking water. You can go to any backwoods truck stop bathroom in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, and the water from the sink will be drinkable. Air conditioning. I honestly think we get diversity the most right compared to other countries. It's not perfect, but other places are far worse. Steak and slow-cooked barbecue. Technology. Apple, Microsoft, Google, etc. Women's sports. Growing up and loving sports. I always admired how the states took women's sports seriously. The equality with that always seemed better, even down to the athletic wear available in stores. Calling out our own problems. Everything you see about how bad America is would not be tolerated in places like China or Russia. Aggressive self-determinism. Oh, your parents were abusive and you don't talk to them anymore? Fuck yeah, rad, good for you. Your partner couldn't give you the relationship you dreamed of having. Alright, rad, move on up. You hated your job and think your future is in being a movie star? Alright. You do you. Send me a premiere ticket. Putting cheese on everything. I love cheese. They definitely could use a larger variety of cheeses though. Way more than most people think they do. Engineering, or tech wages. Affordable homes. Some cities might be stupid expensive, but the Midwest and Texas have lots of affordable homes. If you are lucky enough not to get buried by debt from healthcare or education costs, the States probably has the best personal economic mobility in the world. The States has fantastic consumer selection. For the record, I am not American, I am a bit more north than that. Honestly, our food. Ignoring the weird people who don't season, due to being so multinational, we have access to so many different types of food from all over the world. I can go 10 minutes and get pho from a short Vietnamese man who I'm pretty sure only survives on pure anger of being alive. Then 5 minutes away I can get some of the best barbecue I've ever had, 5 minutes in another direction and it's breakfast all day. Trains. The US rail system is the best in the world. Are you laughing? That is probably because you think moving people on trains is important. The US moves cargo. An indescribable amount of it, city to city, coast to coast. Quickly, cheaply, and efficiently. Hands down, the national parks. Everyone deserves an opportunity to see God's earth. Naval supremacy. The First Amendment. There are a ton of things wrong with universities here, but you can't deny that we got some top-notch research institutions. Individualism. We are arguably the best country on earth for individualism. If you value individualism extremely highly, the US would be a good country for you. Parades. I watched a New Year's parade from London that had the marching band from my daughter's HS. The high school marching band was the highlight of the entire parade. There were groups of people from council, housing, wandering down the street. They just showed me how good, comparatively, an American parade can be. Air conditioning and separate washer and dryers. University towns. I love the fact that many of the big universities are not in the big urban centers. It obviously makes for a fun and memorable undergraduate experience and can create really strong communities and local economies, but more importantly it's huge for driving innovation. If you have to sink your whole R&D budget into paying scientists/engineers/etc. to live in a high cost of living area, then you can't do as many cool projects.